Ladies and gentlemen, I wish to begin with a simple truth. Every great journey begins with a challenge, and every challenge begins with a choice. Whether to face it with courage or surrender to fear, fear is natural. It exists in every human heart, but the moment we allow fear to control our actions, it begins to weaken our potential, it begins to blind our vision, and it begins to shrink the strength of our character. I have met young minds with brilliant ideas, but often they hesitate to express them. Why? Because of fear. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of being judged. Let me tell you something from the heart. Failure is not the opposite of success. Failure is the stepping stone towards success, but fear is the wall that stops you from even trying. History has shown us that those who achieved greatness were not those who never felt fear, but those who chose to rise above it. They trained their minds to believe in possibilities, not problems. They believed in solutions, not excuses. Fear is a feeling that every human being experiences at some point in life. It is as natural as joy, anger, or sadness. It arises when we are uncertain about outcomes, when we face the unknown, or when we think about failing. But while fear itself is not the problem, allowing it to control our actions becomes the greatest barrier to personal growth. Fear, when left unchecked, slowly eats away at our confidence, weakens our decisions, and limits our ability to rise to our true potential. From childhood, we are conditioned to be cautious, sometimes for safety, sometimes due to expectations. But over time, this cautiousness transforms into hesitation. For example, a student who knows the answer may still remain silent in class simply out of fear. Fear of being wrong, fear of being laughed at. The same student might stop trying after one failure, thinking they are not good enough. What is stopping them is not their lack of knowledge, but the fear that paralyzes their effort. The sad part is, this fear is invisible. You cannot see it or touch it, but its impact is real. It creates imaginary walls around your abilities and convinces you that you are less than what you truly are. The human mind is incredibly powerful. It is capable of imagining new worlds, inventing solutions, and transforming lives, but fear can lock that mind in a cage. It makes a person doubt themselves even before they try. It causes them to hesitate at the door of opportunity. People often say, "What if I fail?" but rarely do they ask, "What if I succeed?" This negative bias driven by fear turns dreams into doubts. Fear also narrows vision. It shifts focus from possibilities to problems. When we are afraid, we see only the risk, not the reward. We imagine the worst outcomes and miss the chance to learn, grow, or achieve something new. A person under the grip of fear tends to avoid challenges, and in doing so, they avoid progress. Life becomes a circle of routine instead of a road to discovery. The courage to try something new, to speak out, to lead, or to stand alone. These are the moments when people grow, but fear steals these moments quietly and repeatedly without us even realizing it. Fear doesn't just stop action, it shapes character. Over time, those who constantly give in to fear become timid, unsure, and dependent. They begin to seek safety in silence, in avoidance, and in following others rather than creating their own path. They might live without visible struggle, but also without achievement or satisfaction. And this is the true cost of fear. It does not just weaken one's mind, it weakens one's spirit. It dims the inner light that makes each person unique and powerful. Letting fear control your decisions may feel comfortable in the short term, but in the long run it holds you back from becoming the person you are capable of being. Failure is often misunderstood. Many people view it as the opposite of success, as something shameful or final. But in truth, failure is a necessary and valuable part of the journey toward any achievement. It teaches us what nothing else can. What truly holds people back is not failure itself, but the fear of it. Fear convinces us that failure defines us, when in reality, failure refines us. It shapes our thinking, strengthens our resilience, and pushes us to discover better ways forward. Fear, not failure, is the real enemy of growth. When a person is afraid of failing, they begin to avoid challenges. They choose the easier path, not because it leads to better outcomes, but because it feels safer. They settle for less even when they are capable of more. The fear of failure often plants the idea that making mistakes is a sign of weakness, but the truth is, mistakes are signs that you're trying. Every successful individual in history has failed. Some of them failed many times. But what made them different was that they were not afraid to try again. They learned, adapted, and continued. They didn't let fear dictate their future. Failure provides lessons that success cannot. When we fail, we are forced to reflect. We ask questions, analyze what went wrong, and develop new strategies. In that process, we grow, not just in skills, but in character. But when fear stops us from attempting something new, we lose the opportunity to learn. We become spectators in our own lives, always watching, never participating fully. We admire others who take risks and succeed, but we forget that the same courage lies within us too, waiting to be awakened. The fear of failure often begins in our early experiences, maybe in school, maybe at home, where mistakes were criticized instead of being seen as part of learning. Over time, this fear grows and starts controlling our decisions. We stop speaking up. We stop pursuing our ideas, we stay in our comfort zones, but no great invention, no powerful speech, no historic decision was ever made inside a comfort zone. Progress always comes with uncertainty, and those who move forward are not the ones who never fall. They are the ones who rise every time they do. One of the greatest tragedies is watching someone with talent, intelligence, and vision remain stuck because they are too afraid to face failure. They wait for the perfect moment, the perfect plan, the perfect assurance that things will work. But life offers no guarantees. Every dream comes with risk. Every goal involves setbacks. Success is not about avoiding failure. It's about building the strength to overcome it. Fear of failure makes people stop before they even begin. It silences ideas, weakens ambition, and creates doubt where there should be confidence. But once we understand that failure is not the end, but part of the process, we begin to move with purpose. We start to see challenges not as threats, but as opportunities. And in that shift, we break free from fear and move closer to who we are meant to be. True strength does not lie in the absence of fear, but in the decision to act despite it. Courage and effort together create a force more powerful than fear. When a person decides to believe in themselves and puts in consistent effort, they begin to break through the mental limits fear tries to impose. While fear tries to freeze a person in place, courage allows them to move forward even with uncertainty. And with every step taken in courage, fear grows weaker. Courage is not something only found in moments of heroism or great danger. It is found in everyday decisions, in choosing to speak when it is easier to stay silent, in trying again after failure, in standing for what is right even when standing alone. Every small act of bravery builds inner strength. Each time you try when you feel unsure, each time you challenge your own limits, you expand your capacity to grow. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the determination that fear will not control your path. Effort plays an equally vital role. Courage without effort becomes a thought without action. But when effort is added to courage, it creates change. Many people have dreams, and some even have the courage to chase them, but only those who put in daily, disciplined effort see those dreams become reality. Fear might make you feel that the task is too big, that the goal is too far, or that you're not ready. But consistent effort, even in small steps, proves fear wrong. It builds confidence, it builds experience, and over time it builds results. The most inspiring people in the world are not those who never faced fear, but those who overcame it through effort and belief. They trained their minds to focus not on what could go wrong, but on what they could do next. When faced with obstacles, they did not stop. They adjusted, they learned, and they moved forward. This mindset does not come overnight. It is built slowly through the habit of choosing courage over comfort and effort over excuse. When people believe in themselves, they begin to see possibilities rather than problems. That belief fuels action. And with action, fear loses its grip. A person who believes in their ability to learn, to grow, and to improve does not get discouraged easily. Even when results take time, they persist. Even when others doubt them, they stay focused. That is the kind of strength that truly lasts, the kind born from inner belief and steady effort. In life, challenges are guaranteed. Fear will try to appear again and again, but with courage and effort, any person can rise above fear. This combination turns hesitation into action, doubt into confidence, and limitation into progress. It is not about being the strongest or the smartest. It is about having the heart to keep moving forward. And when you do, you discover a truth that fear never wanted you to know. You are far more capable than you ever imagined. Fear often whispers in our minds when we are about to do something meaningful. It tells us to stay quiet, to stay safe, to stay hidden. One of the most common and harmful effects of fear is how it silences dreams and ideas. So many individuals, especially young people with fresh thoughts and bold visions, hesitate to speak or act because they are afraid of judgment, of rejection, of not being taken seriously. And in that moment of hesitation, an idea that could have made a difference is lost. A dream that could have grown into something beautiful is buried before it even had a chance to breathe. Each person carries within them something unique, a thought, a talent, a perspective that no one else has. But fear acts like a lock on the door of expression. It keeps words unspoken, actions unattempted, and dreams unrealized. Many times it's not because people don't have ideas, but because they believe their ideas won't matter. This belief, planted and watered by fear, slowly convinces them that it's safer to remain silent, and that silence becomes a habit, a pattern that grows stronger over time. Think about how many opportunities are missed simply because someone was afraid to raise their hand, to ask a question, or to share a suggestion. Fear tells us, what if they laugh at you? What if you're wrong? But the real question we should be asking is, what if this is the idea that changes everything? What if this voice needs to be heard? When you let fear stop you from expressing yourself, you're not just holding back words, you're holding back potential, yours and others. Expression is power. When you share your ideas, you open the door to connection, to learning, and to improvement. Even if your idea is not perfect, even if it faces criticism, it can still spark conversation and growth. Every great innovation, every solution, every movement began when someone dared to express what others were too afraid to say. Silence may feel safe, but it rarely leads to change. Growth requires risk, and risk requires voice. Breaking this habit of silence starts with small steps. Say what you believe, even if your voice shakes. Ask the question that's on your mind. Share the thought that feels important. With each act of expression, you weaken fear's grip. You begin to realize that mistakes are not the end of the world. They are the beginning of learning, and as you grow more confident, your ideas grow louder, stronger, and more impactful. No one else in the world sees things exactly the way you do. That is your power, and when fear keeps you from expressing that power, the world loses something valuable. But when you choose to speak, to create, to act, you give life to your ideas, and you inspire others to do the same. Fear thrives in silence, but courage is found in expression. And when you begin to speak your truth even quietly, you begin to change not only yourself, but the world around you. Many people believe that strength means never feeling fear, but the truth is very different. Real strength lies in how we respond to fear, not in whether we experience it. Everyone feels afraid at times, whether it's fear of failure, fear of rejection, or fear of the unknown. What separates those who move forward in life from those who remain stuck is not the presence or absence of fear, but the willingness to rise above it. The people we admire for their bravery, their achievements, or their leadership did not succeed because they never felt fear. They succeeded because they chose not to let fear decide their actions. Fear has a voice. It says, you can't do this, what if you fail, or you're not good enough. And when we listen to that voice, we shrink our world, we stop trying new things, we settle for what's familiar. We avoid challenges, even if those challenges could lead to something better. But the truth is, Fear often exaggerates danger and underestimates our strength. It paints a picture of defeat before we've even made an attempt. Rising above fear starts with recognizing that it lies to us and that we have the power to choose a different path. There are countless examples of ordinary people who did extraordinary things simply because they refused to be ruled by fear. They stood up when it was easier to sit down. They spoke when it was easier to stay silent. They acted when it would have been safer to wait. These are not people born without fear. They are people who trained themselves to keep going in spite of it. They learned that courage is like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it becomes. One of the greatest things a person can do is to take action while still feeling afraid. This doesn't mean ignoring fear, but rather refusing to obey it. When you choose to act despite your fear, you begin to prove to yourself that you are more capable than you imagine. Each time you do this, your confidence grows. You stop seeing fear as a wall and begin seeing it as a hurdle, something to overcome, not something to surrender to. This habit of facing fear builds a kind of inner freedom. You become less dependent on the approval of others. You stop waiting for perfect conditions. You start trusting your own instincts, your ideas, and your efforts. The fear may still be there, but it no longer controls your decisions. It becomes something you walk beside, not something you bow down to. Those who rise above fear are the ones who discover their full potential. They are not perfect, and they still make mistakes, but they move forward with purpose. Their lives are full not because they never stumbled, but because they refused to stay down. In choosing courage over fear, they unlock doors that fear tried to keep shut. And with every door they open, they create a life defined not by limits, but by possibilities.